Today, I am telling you about submitting proposals. Before you start your proposal submission, always make sure that you read the proposal call. I have put the link here. If you're interested in the last one, make sure you always read the proposer's guide. We always put an updated document out to go out with the proposal call. So there a lot of the text in there and the information is usually the same, but it does vary. We put updated information in that. So just always make sure you're up to date before submitting the proposal. And before you begin, I've listed here some questions just for you to think about for the motivation for you writing a GBT proposals. A really good one to ask is this telescope the right one for doing your science? So yeah, you can just think about these broader questions before submitting a GBT proposal. So GBO and NRIO have two different proposal calls and deadlines every year. So these days they are around August 1st and February 1st for those semesters. We have now implemented a policy that it is the Wednesday closest to August 1st or February 1st. So that can be a bit confusing, but just check the proposal call and there'll be a very clear deadline put out for you. So we have the two different semesters and their corresponding deadlines. So how do you actually submit the proposal? Well, you go into mynrio.edu and you click on the proposals tab, and then you'll be able to make a new proposal. Then once you do, there are these different categories of information that you need to fill out for submitting. And there is the status of your proposal up in the right-hand corner. So there's a lot of different proposal types that I've listed here. I won't go through all of them, but one thing to know, high frequency time is in high demand and there's not as much of it as there is low frequency time. So that's why some of these qualifications for higher frequency time is a bit different than the others. And so there's regular proposals and large proposals. So those are all listed here. Other types of proposal types are the DDTs, or Director's Discretionary Time. So these are proposals that are submitted not at a regular deadline because something has come up, either a new target that you really need to ask for time now. You can't wait for a proposal deadline. Or it can be to ask for exploratory time. It's not a full-blown proposal, but it's an idea. It's a way to try your ideas, and it's usually a very small amount of time too. Triggered proposals are, as the title suggests, if something happens, then it triggers your observations. So that's a specific category of proposal. We also do accept high-risk proposals. The Telescope Allocation Committee, the TAC and the science review panels do like to see people trying something for a high risk, high reward sort of situation. So don't be afraid to ask for time to do something that may be high risk. The science review panel will take a look at that. We also take filler programs. There's a lot of times when there's just something happens and we need to fill some time. So these you can put in a proposal specifically for this type of program. So these here are the parts of a GBT proposal. I won't list all of them, but we will go through them just to get you familiar with the different parts. But put some statistics here here for you to see. So we usually have about 50 to 100 proposals every deadline. And for a science review panel member, it's usually quite obvious that the few that are obviously really great, and there are a few that are obviously really poor. And then the rest of them are usually equal, or pretty equal, in that they're all good. And so then it does come down to very minute details for that the science review panel members pick up on. So over the last 4 semesters, we've had a oversubscription rate of about 2, and high frequency time is much higher. So the question is, how do you make your proposal stand out when there's a large number of proposals that are good, and it's just the small details that put you apart? So these are some tips that we have for you all for writing your science justification. So that's 4 pages of text and figures and references of your laying out your science case. So you want to be concise. You don't want to be too wordy. The science review panel members are reading a lot of these, so be thorough but concise. And you really do want to provide a relevant introduction. Non-experts are maybe reading it. There's a science review panel that's galaxy clusters. There's also one that's about high redshift objects, and there's all sorts of high redshift objects. So really provide a relevant introduction to obviously to an astronomer, but someone who may not be familiar with your specific field, science case, etc. That really is important, because that can be something that the review panel marks your proposal down, because they don't understand the broader context of your work and why it matters to do what you want to do. Make sure you cite the current and relevant literature. And these are important to discuss the potential impact of a successful proposal and a null result. That the science review panel members want to see that. Like, what does it mean when you get a successful measurement? What does that mean for the broader context of your field? And what happens if you don't see anything? It's very important to say all those things. And at the end of your proposal, you could put some technical justification. Just briefly explain how long you need and why. You do have the technical justification section where you can go into great detail, but the science review panel can look at both of those, the science justification and technical justification. But it's good to put at least a little bit in the science justification of why you need that, how much time, that sensitivity, and link it to your broader impact context of your proposal. So don't assume that all reviewers are expert in your domain. I can't stress that enough to really make it more general, and you're trying to just always try to convince a general astronomer that your proposal is interesting and important. And don't blind with science, just keep it simple. The best proposals really are concise and simple, and okay, and you say that, okay, that's why this is interesting and important. And you can use words, obviously, but use a figure when it, you need to demonstrate something. So just take attention to whether or not words would be better or a figure would be better to really demonstrate what you're trying to get across. So that was the science justification part, the text that you're writing to explain your proposal. For the technical justification, you have unlimited space in this area to justify why you need a sensitivity and thus why you need this amount of time. So what are you using? What instrument? How long are you using it for? How you're using it? How you determine the values? Really, truly, spell out the equations. Scientific staff at the observatories go through these technical justifications and have to try to reproduce your calculations, etc., to verify that you've asked for the right amount of time. So really and truly use full sentences, be as descriptive as possible, write the equations that you used and walk the reader through the logic. It's very helpful for staff going through and verifying that what you've done is correct, and also for the science review panel of being able to say, yes, they justified this, and we say that yes, they need that much time. For GBT proposals, we ask that you copy and paste the output of the sensitivity calculator directly into the technical justification. Again, that really helps staff because we have staff goes through and verifies this, and we have to verify that what you put into the sensitivity calculator is correct. So if you have that in there, it helps for verification. And always, if in doubt, you could contact us. We are here to help during this process. So here are some tips for your technical justification. So make sure you're up to date on those capabilities. Always ask for help if you need it. Provide all the info that's asked for, and be explicit about any assumptions that you're making. Really spell that out so the reader can follow with you. Don't ask for something that's unavailable or impossible. And don't ask for something that's not justified by the science that you want to do. And you could pad the time request because we conduct an independent review. Okay, so one of the things that's part of the technical justification is asking for overhead requirements. So there are here I've listed a few things. You can take a look. I don't need to read all that at you. But one of the main things is, it takes about 5 minutes to point and focus. However, high frequency do this a little bit differently. High frequency does pointing and also the auto oofing. So in general, if you're doing high frequency observations, the standard is to ask for double the amount of integration time you need because we have so much overheads with pointing very often because we're at high frequencies. You need to make sure the beam is still good, etc. And auto oofing takes about a half hour or so. Yeah, so for higher frequencies, you ask for double the amount of integration time that you need. And then there are all these other things that need to be considered for asking for your overhead time. So in your technical justification, state your logic of your overhead estimate explicitly. Say how you calculated this. And if it's wrong, it doesn't necessarily, that won't make your proposal not go through. It just allows staff to then be able to help you to make sure you're doing what you need to do to get the science result that you want. So there are the sources, resources, and sessions sections. So sources is you're adding the sources that you want to observe. Resources are what receivers you're going to use. And the sessions are you're likely combining a few targets into one session, so into one observing session. So there are some helpful hints here, but the main one I want to say is for the sessions, you just have to consider the length, how long you want them to be, how often you want them to repeat them, etc. So here's some more text, but just for creating your sessions, main thing is you should know that sessions are scheduled using the average RA and DEC of the sources. So you should group them accordingly. Basically, we say sources should be within 2 to 3 hours of one another in RA and visible at the same time for at least 1 to 2 hours. So it has happened before that someone just put all of their objects that they want to observe into one session. If they're all over the sky, that makes it scheduling difficult / it's just not very accurate for when your source is actually up. And there's just a few of these other tips that I'll leave to you to read. Some just general stylistic considerations and tips. Don't repeat the abstract in the proposal. That takes up your space. It's included in the cover sheet. You don't need to repeat your abstract anywhere. And don't add content to just reach the page limit. It's okay to be under page limit if you've said what you've needed to say. Again, the science review panels are reading a lot of these. So being concise and not just adding more words is very useful. There are formatting guidelines and some LaTeX templates available that you can grab. Again, remember that the reviewers they're reading a lot of these. So make it interesting and exciting, make it stand out that way. There are a few common mistakes I wanted to mention. Some people don't consider the confusion limit. So once you hit that, you can't go deeper. And there are 1/f noise considerations. I won't go into details of these exact pieces of science. So you will, it does seem that if you need to consider these, you will likely already know about these. But details are listed there. You need to consider RFI. So make sure you know if there is RFI in the bands or where you're trying to observe. Have a plan to figure out to deal with RFI. That's part of the technical justification. And use the GBT sensitivity and mapping calculators when possible. I will say for Mustang 2 observers, the sensitivity and mapping calculators don't work for Mustang 2. We have our own way of doing it, and there are wiki pages that explain this. You have to work with the Mustang 2 team anyway, so yeah, you'll be covered. So just some pieces of information for you to know about scheduling. The GBT is oversubscribed about a factor of 2, particularly in the galactic center is up. So a lot of people want to look at the galactic center, but the galactic center is not up for very long here. So it is highly oversubscribed. So if you can, ask for some time that's in lower demand, some LST ranges. You can see the stats of previous calls to see what the LST ranges, what the demand is, if it's high or low. And just note that high frequency has higher oversubscription rates as there are less hours available. Fixed projects are becoming harder to schedule, so those that have to be in an exact date, that can be very difficult to schedule. So just make sure you have your must-haves clear and different from the prefer-to-haves for those types of projects. So I wanted to briefly go over the timeline and life of a proposal. But first, just talking about proposal review. So there are 9 different science panels, and it has broad community representation on the panels, but there are non-experts on the panels. So, you know, they're people that have that are in the field of radio astronomy, but they won't necessarily know all there is to know about your specific topic. The proposals are given a linear score, 0 being the best and 10 being the worst. The score is normalized and assigned a priority group. So it's normalized based on the reviewers scoring, habits, etc. So the priority group, so A is the highest rank, and it is active for 1 year, and you're expected to get to be completed. B is the next, and it's only active for 1 semester, and it should get most of its time. C is 1 semester, and it's filler, so it's not guaranteed that you'll get all or even much of the time, but it's nice to have some time. And then N is not accepted. So this is the timeline. I don't need to read this out to you, but mainly, the proposal call goes out, people submit their proposals, then it gets, the proposal goes through the technical review through observatory staff, and then science reviews through those science review panels. And it usually ends up for the February 1st deadline. You hear in early May sometime whether or not your proposal was accepted. And for the August 1st deadline, you hear in early November, usually, when your proposal was whether it was accepted or not. And you can view the proposal results at this link. You change it for the different semesters. You can see proposal statistics and the number of hours that were asked for. So these are statistics for the 25B proposal call that happened recently. So it can be very interesting to look at that. And then you also, as I mentioned, you get the pressure plots of the time that was requested. So this is good to look at just to see, what LST ranges are oversubscribed, how much time was awarded to A, B, and C, et cetera. Can be very useful to look at. If you want to see the science program, see what other proposals were accepted, or you need to cite that your proposal was accepted in, a CP or something, you can go to these links. They're different based on what semester you're looking for. So yeah, you can go to these links to see the full science program that was accepted. And this is released about 1 week after the dispositions go out. So these are some final links for you to peruse that will be of use when you are submitting your proposal. And I put a checklist here at the end just for you if you're preparing a proposal of the things you need: your science justification, your technical justification, your sources, your resources and sessions. So these are the things that you need to consider, when you're submitting a GBT proposal. So that's all the info I had to share with you about submitting a proposal. And I'll take any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Emily. What questions do we have? Feel free to unmute or raise your hand or put your question in the chat and we will read it off.
Hi, Emily. I have a question. I've never submitted a proposal to the GBT before, and I wasn't sure sort of the best way to see an example, or even if anyone else in the room has an example they might be willing to send me. I really appreciate like the outline, but sometimes it's good to see, okay, what does concise look like in this environment?
Yeah, that is a good question. So the best way so it's good to get an example. I would, I think you should get an example though of one of an instrument that you would be thinking about proposing for. So I would ask your group lead, whichever group you're with, if they could provide an example, because I would give you one, a Mustang one, but if it's probably not as helpful if you're not applying to Mustang, et cetera. So I would suggest asking your group lead if they have a proposal, or if they know of one for a receiver that you are thinking of applying to. Will, I don't think, because we've gathered examples in the past, but I don't know if we've put them anywhere.
So I can speak to this.
Oh, great. Thanks, Jay.
Proposals are never made public. We do publish abstracts of accepted proposals. So I would say if you have someone in your field who you know has submitted proposals, you could go to them directly and ask if they have a copy. You can, if you have specific questions or want feedback on your proposal, you can also submit a ticket to our science help desk, and you might be able to get a staff member who's willing to share an example or provide any sort of clarifications.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kate. We have had a lot of discussions on making things available, but all comes down to just that they're proprietary.
Yeah, so I think the best way is to find someone in your field that you know has submitted a proposal and start there, like Jay was saying. Or you could end up submitting a help desk ticket to ask. Yeah, or I would talk to your group lead. All right, Joe?
Yeah, so this is just kind of a question, because I'm used to submitting like NASA proposals and things like that. Do you guys have any requirements for PIs in terms of like where they are in their in their academic career or anything like that?
Not that I know. It's not like, oh, there's 10 that's going to go to early career or, some that's going to a later. So as far as I know, there are not any requirements. Jay will probably be the best to speak on that too. He knows everything.
Well, that's not true.
Okay.
We have no requirements for PIs. I will say if you are a graduate student submitting a proposal, please make sure that your graduation date and your thesis plan are up to date. We publish a template for thesis plans because you can get a slight boost in your proposal rank if it's a thesis project, but that boost only applies if your thesis plan contains, all of the information we need. Like if your graduation date is 2026 and you're not expecting to get the data until 2027, you're not going to get a thesis boost. So I'd say that's the only requirement in terms of who can be a PI is if you're a graduate student PI collecting data for your thesis, please reread some of our policies around that. But otherwise, anyone can be a PI. We've had undergraduate PIs. I don't know if we've had high school PIs. I think we've probably had high schoolers on proposals very occasionally. But yeah, anyone can submit a proposal and anyone can be the PI.
Thanks, Jay. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Thank you very
All
much,
right.
Emily.
Yes.